See that American kestrel?
Oh yeah, how nice. Let me try to get a picture of that. Oh, really?
Oh, honey, that's gross. Hey, look, Wingspan.
Hey everybody, I've got Wingspan on the table here. Let me go over it with you guys, let you take a look at it. Wingspan is an engine building, card drafting, resource management game in which the theme is that you are trying to have birds in your sanctuary here to basically have the coolest, most valuable birds in your sanctuary. The way a game works is everybody gets 8 action cubes to start the game, and essentially that means you're going to take 8 actions in the first turn. The different actions you can take are listed here on the left side of your player board. So let me go over these real quick. The first thing you could do is play a bird. In order to do that, you'd have to have some of these bird cards in your hand. But say you do have one, you're going to take one of your action cubes and you're going to place it above the column in which you want to play the bird in. At the beginning of the game, you'll want to play them over here on the left side because you won't have any birds in your sanctuary. But as you put birds in these spaces here on the left, you will then start placing them on spaces further to the right. The further right you go, the more expensive it is to place birds in those columns. You have to pay eggs in order to do so. But let's say I play a bird here, and I have this bird in my hand. And by the way, this is the scissortail flycatcher, state bird of Oklahoma. Hey, hey. You would have to play the bird into its specific habitat. So for instance, this bird can only be played in the grasslands, and the grasslands are right there. So actually this cube would need to go right here. Or well, it's still above this column, but it's going right here. And I would then have to pay the cost on the card. And so I would have to have 2 worms and a berry. These are invertebrate and fruit, are the actual words. I call them worms and berries. But I would have to have gotten food from the bird feeder here and gotten these tokens to be able to exchange them and play this bird card. And I would just put it right there on that space right there. And then when I play a bird the next time in my grasslands, it would go in this space right here, so on and so forth. That's the play the bird action. The next thing is to gain food. Now the cool thing in this game, I mentioned it's a engine building kind of game. Let's say I have this card, it's a forest bird, and it would go right there. I wouldn't put the cube to take food on the bird. In fact, I would put it on the space next to it. And so these actions get better and better as I put more and more birds in my sanctuary. So to gain food, I look at and see how many dice symbols there are in the space in which I'm putting my action cube, and that's how many dice I can claim from the bird feeder here. And whatever's on the die is the type of food token that I get. Now, this little birdhouse isn't just for looks here, it is an actual dice tower that is really cool. But again, whatever I take from that is the food token I get, and you guys can see here, this symbol means I can discard a card to get an additional food token, and it's there as well. That is gain food. To lay eggs, again, let's say that this card is here. I could take better actions throughout the course of the game, but essentially I'm gonna get that number of eggs and put them on birds that I have in my sanctuary. Now, I am limited to however many egg icons are printed on that bird, and that's the number of eggs that I can have on that bird at any time. And what eggs are good for, as I've already mentioned, they let you be able to play birds into the better columns towards the end of the game, but eggs are also points at the end of the game. The fourth and final action I could do is take bird cards, and that's pretty self-explanatory. I don't really need to spend too much time on that. But again, you have 8 cubes, 8 actions to do. At the end of that, you will then take one of your action cubes and you'll come over here to this board. Now, we're going to drop some bombs in talking about this part of the game because this can be a confusing component to the game for new gamers, non-gamers, because each round you're going to be trying to do the best at a certain goal that everybody's shooting for. And you will get points based on how well you did. And so for instance, this one says the number of birds you've played into your grassland. For each bird you would get 1 point. And if, let's say I got 3 at the end of the first round, I would put my cube there. Everybody else would put their cube. And that cube stays there for the rest of the game. So the next round, instead of 8 action cubes, I only have 7. Next round, I would only have 6. And then the final round, I would only have 5. So each round progressively gets shorter and shorter. There are lots of different goals in the game, and they can be confusing to what you're trying to do, and so you want to make sure you explain it well to your non-gamer friends, because that can be very hard to understand. It can also be really difficult for non-gamers to have to adjust their strategy each and every round depending upon what those goals are. Let's come back over here to the bird cards, because there's one other thing that we need to go over, and that's these colored borders at the bottom. There are 3 different types of cards. There are ones that have brown borders, and what these brown borders do, whenever you take the action in which that bird is a part of that particular habitat, so for instance, the grasslands lay eggs action for this scissortail flycatcher. After I've gotten my eggs, I then move the cube over to whatever card is next, going left, and if there is a brown border on it, I can activate that action. And so for instance, this one says all players gain 1 invertebrate from the supply. I don't have to do that. It is optional, but most of the time you'll want to. And that's what brown cards do. There are pink cards, which only activate on another player's turn. And they're all different, lots of iconography, and that is another thing that can be hard and difficult for non-gamers to play through. It can be difficult for veterans. There is this appendix book that explains all the cards in the game, but I'll tell you, not even this is fully easy to understand. It can be a little confusing going through that, so just keep that in mind. The third and final type of card are these cards right here that don't have a color on them. These cards mean they only activate whenever you play the card. Essentially, that is Wingspan. You play through 4 rounds, as I've already mentioned. This board over here can be flipped over for a more challenging way to play the game, in which you get points based off of what place you finished in. If you finished too poorly, you won't get any points. And so that can be more cutthroat. For non-gamers, I recommend playing on the blue side. After 4 rounds, you're going to add up points. You're going to get points based off of the birds you've played in your sanctuary, going off of this number printed right here next to that feather. Yeah, that's the number of points you get for that bird. Your bonus cards that you will start the beginning of the game with. Each player will be dealt bonus cards, and these are secret hidden objectives that you will be trying to do well on throughout the course of the game. So even more goals that you're going to be trying to achieve. There's lots of goals in this game. And your end of round goals, the number of eggs that you have on your birds at the end of the game, the number of foods tokens that you have on your cards at the end of the game. So some birds allow you to put food tokens on them, and then some birds allow you to tuck birds underneath them, and you'll get 1 point for each bird tucked underneath other birds. Add it all up, and you figure out who the winner is, and that's how you play Wingspan. Now real quick, not done just yet. The main reason why we really wanted to review this game is because the newest print run of this game comes with what's called the Swift Start Promo Pack, and it's a set of player aids here that are player order dependent. So we got player 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that is different for each player. You start with different starting cards, different food tokens, and it tells you how to play the game, but it also tells you what you should do through the first 4 turns of your game. Oh, sorry there. And so this is very, very useful for non-gamers to not only learn how to play the game, but also how to start up your engine and play well in Wingspan, because this can be a challenging game to do well in. It's not a difficult game to understand, but it's challenging to do well in, and this Swift Start Pack does help in that. Anyhow, that is how you play Wingspan. Let's go up top and we'll share our thoughts on the game. All right, so here's Sam and I doing a 2-player run through with the Swift Start Promo Pack. And if you guys want to check out that playthrough video, click the eye in the top right corner and it'll take you to it. Right now we're going to share our thoughts on the game. Sam, what did you think about Wingspan?
Well, this wasn't the first time we've played it, but it was one of the first times we played it with the swift start. And I did appreciate that aspect of it. I felt that this was a really good idea. I like games, and we've played one or two other games like this that just have this little preview start.
Kind of a way to warm you into getting into the game.
Yeah, and I like that because sometimes a gamer is going to focus on different rules or different aspects of the rules than what myself as a non-gamer needs to know. And sometimes that can cause frustration. It has for me and Lance for sure. I get mad because I'm not understanding the way he's explaining it. But as a gamer, he's played so many games that he easily understands different rules that tend to follow in similar games. So with this, we're learning together. I'm playing it. I'm not getting mad at him. I'm just playing the game, but with kind of a little assistance.
And it takes a lot of stress off of the gamer because you're not being relied upon to get every rule exactly right or to tell it to them exactly at the right time. The player aid does all of that for you. And so I think we're on the same page here that this is a very needed element to...
I wish more games would do it.
To lots of games. This is something that a lot of games should have, but especially Wingspan, because Wingspan is kind of one of those games that you might feel lost at the beginning and not have an idea as to how to get your engine going and start getting points and doing the right thing in this game, because there's just so many dadgum cards.
I feel like it takes down the learning curve just a little bit because it helps you at least understand what you need to do to develop your own strategy versus just going in, not even realizing what parts you need to strategize.
Yeah, for sure. Now, what I just said there with the cards, for me, that's one of the things I really like about Wingspan, actually, is that when you understand the game, there's a lot of depth here because there are, I think, like 270 cards or something like that. I'm not sure. But with that many cards, there's just so many options of things you can do on your turn, and your engine can be built in so many different ways. This is definitely a great game.
It's a pretty game too. I mean, the birds, the board, the little eggs. Not that that's the most important thing about board games, but it's nice to look at. It's good artwork.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed that.
And it's a unique theme, something different.
Yeah.
However, for me, this is not a perfect game. What do you think, Sam? Are there some knocks on your side for this game?
Yeah, there are. It is, you have to develop a strategy. It's not a game that you can just, for lack of a better word, wing it. You need to,
I see what you did there.
You need to develop your strategy. And I have lost every time we've played this game. I feel like I understand it. I feel like I have a good grasp on it, but I think we've played 3 times now and I have lost every time. So I'm done playing it now.
Oh, wow. I've broken her. I know what you mean, though, because when I've played this game with people who know how to play Wingspan, you're going to get left in the dust. And that's probably one thing out there for gamers to know. When playing with non-gamers on this game, you can break them, break their spirits, so to speak. So just be careful with that.
I'm not a super competitive person, but when it comes to losing the same game over and over again, that's when I start getting frustrated.
Yeah. For me, the biggest knock that I have on this game is that, you start the game with 8 action cubes, 8 things you can do on your turn, and you end the game with 5. For me, I'm a person who, when I put effort into something, I want to see it flourish, I want to see it grow, I want to see it give back to me. And unfortunately, this game does the exact opposite. It takes away. And that's regardless of how much energy or effort I put into it, it's going to keep taking away. And by the end of the game, 5 action turns, it just feels like, man, I had so much more going on in the beginning, and here I am now, and I feel like it steals from me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I would agree with that because by the end, you're really starting to understand how you were playing the game, but then you're losing the ability to play more times. Right. So, I guess with that, maybe they were wanting you to make sure that your brown cards that you're...
Yeah, your engine needs to be good if you want to do well in this game. And I don't know that
sometimes it just doesn't line up that way.
Right. It is a card game, and so there's going to be some luck of the draw when whatever the cards come out with. And I'll be honest with you guys, I probably am not the greatest. I'm definitely not the greatest at this game, and that's going to affect my opinion of the game. So, this isn't a perfect game, and this isn't a trash game by any means. This is still a great, solid game. We're going to just jump right into our ratings of this. I would give this game a solid 7.8. And the knock is that it feels like it takes away towards the end. What about for you, Sam? What do you rate this game?
I think about a 7.5, like just, middle of the road. It's a good game. It's enjoyable. It is not the easiest to explain or to understand, but I really think that swift start makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think that is a huge inclusion on this print run of the game. So Sam, the question, would you recommend this game be played with non-gamers?
Yes, not right away if they've never played games before, but I definitely think it's worth trying.
All right, there you guys have it. All right, so if you liked this game, check it out on Amazon. There's a link in the description of the video that'll take you to it. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing. This has been Love to Hate.